Hi everyone, my name is Talese Hunt. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a really gentle movement and breathing focused workout. So I want to remind you, please take this at your own pace. Feel free to take breaks. You can push pause and come back later. And you don't need to do everything that I suggest. So please follow the advice of your medical professionals and also listen to what your own body is asking for today. So today I'll be using a chair. Please be sure your chair is sturdy enough that you can move your body a little bit. Again, this will be very gentle, easing back into some movement and breathing. Also be sure that you have some water. Let's get started. All right, welcome back. Let's start with some gentle movement for our hips. So I know they can get really tight when we've been sick and we haven't been moving a lot. Let's again be sure that your hips are towards the front edge of your chair, not to the point that you feel like you might fall off. And then sitting up as tall as you can. Now use your hands. I want you to find this crease at the front of your hips. So that really is the hip socket. We're going to try to move from this crease a little bit. So imagine your spine now is really straight, just like a board. We're going to try to move just from this crease. So think of leaning forward a little bit just from that crease. So I'm going to tip forward slightly towards my legs, trying to keep my back really straight. So it feels like the bottom of my butt is almost lifting up off the chair. And then just come right back to where you started. Let's try that again. So we lean forward. My neck is really long. There's no wrinkles in the back of the neck. So my eyes are looking kind of forward on the floor as I lean forward, and then they lift back up to be at just parallel with the floor. Let's do that a few more times. So we're just gently warming up the hips, leaning forward, and then trying to find vertical where your head is stacked right over your shoulders. Your shoulders are stacked right over your ribs, and your ribs are stacked right over your hips. Let's do that just one more time. Leaning forward. And then sitting up nice and tall. Now let's see if we can lean backwards. So this will require a little bit of abdominal strength. So from that crease, now we're thinking of the crease opening up. So our torso is going to lean back a little bit. And it will be really small. Think just 1 inch, lean back. And then try to sit up right on top of those butt bones that we sit on. So that crease is opening up, so we're hinging just like a door, and then coming back up. Let's try a few more. If your neck is feeling tight, try to keep your eyes looking just to that horizon level so they're parallel with the floor. And that will protect your neck a little bit. You could also try placing your hands behind your head. Just be sure you can see your elbows in your peripheral vision. That will actually help your abdominals stay more connected than if we try to open the ribs, open the elbows really wide. Let's try a couple more. So opening at the front of the hip. See if you can imagine there's a really wide belt all the way around your waist from your ribs to your hips. Before you lean back, try to tighten that belt a little bit. And then we open up that crease in the front of the hip. Let's do just one more. Hinging back and then coming back up. All right, we did it. So now we're going to turn sideways. So I'm going to turn my chair towards you so that you can see. And I want you to reach one leg out to the side of your chair. So if you're on your sofa, you might just need to turn sideways slightly. So one leg is stretched all the way straight so that you can really plant your foot on the floor. And then can you also have one butt cheek kind of sitting off the side of the chair? Great. We're going to start with a little rotation in our pelvis. So first let's turn your leg so that your kneecap and your toes are pointing straight up to the sky. So your whole thigh bone has just rotated in your hip socket. Now let's think about your hips. So we have hip bones here in the front. Let's think about turning them towards our other leg and allow your leg to rotate with you. So your kneecap and your toe will now point forward. Now bring your hip bones back to face front and let your kneecap and toes turn up to the sky. So our entire pelvis is turning towards this bent leg and then turning away from that bent leg. Now feel free to hold on to your chair. If you need a little support, place that hand on your leg as we do this rotation. And again, feel free to make any adjustments that you need to if you don't feel comfortable or something feels a little bit strange. So we're really opening up and moving through the hip socket. Now let's keep the hip bones facing front, and now just move your legs. So this will be very small. Can you turn your kneecap and toes to face the front? Just as much as they will without any pain. And then turn the kneecap and the toes to face the sky. Let's do a few more like that. So this is really just a nice massage deep in the hip socket. See if you can make it really smooth. You might notice I can feel there's some spots that are a little bit, I can't think of the word, not smooth. See how smooth you can make the movement. Maybe try gently pressing your heel into the floor, and that can help just activate those deep muscles that are creating this rotation. All right, pretty good. So now let's turn the kneecap and the toes to face front. Let your foot totally rest on the floor. And we're gonna do another side bend. This time reach your arms straight out to the side. We're gonna bend towards your bent leg. So for me, that's my left leg. I'm bending over to the left. I'll place my left hand on the chair and take a big side stretch. So this one can be a little bit bigger than what you did earlier. Usually this straight leg will counterbalance your side bend. Let's do that again. So going up and over, opening up that right side of the body, and then coming back up. And let's lift both arms out to the side. So this is some gentle strength for the shoulders as well. Up and over to the left, pressing that right leg down into the floor, and then coming back up to sit tall. One more time. Gently breathing throughout this movement. And then let's add a little twist towards the chair again, just like we did earlier. So we're gonna twist towards the back side of the chair. Allow your hips to twist as well. And then let's add our gentle cat-cow here. So think of gently using your chair to lift your chest. Little bit of a stretch in the front of the body. It might feel really small. That's totally normal. And then a little bit drawing the front of the body into the back of the body. Let's do that 2 more times. So lifting the chest, letting your eyes lift up. And then almost pushing your chair away from you to help bring the front of the body into the back of the body. One more time, lifting the chest, and then looking towards your hips. And then just gently de-twist. Okay, we have one more thing on this side. So really be sure here that your butt cheek is off the chair, and we're gonna allow a little bit of a side bend here. So also an adjustment with this leg that's straight. I want you to bend it. Be careful that your chair is sturdy here, and let your foot rest on the floor. Now we're gonna let your butt cheek kind of drop down a little bit, so really use your legs for support so that you don't fall off. And now I want you to think of lifting your hip up towards your rib cage. So we're lowering the hip down. See if you can go a little bit lower than your chair, and then lifting the hip up. So this is where it's really important to have a sturdy chair, or make sure you're close to the wall and you can press up against the wall so that you don't tip your chair off to the side. This is a really nice stretch through your low back. There's this muscle called your quadratus lumborum in the low back that gets really tight. Let's do that one more time, dropping the hip down and lifting the hip up. And then let's do all of that on the other side. So I'm just gonna shift over towards the other side. Maybe for this one, I'll turn my chair again on the angle. Reaching the left leg out to the side. If you just did your left leg, be sure it's your right leg. And then the other leg is bent. All right, So let's start by thinking about the hip bones, and we're going to add some rotation. So think of rotating your hip bones towards the bent leg, and also let your kneecap and your toes go with you. And now rotating those hip bones back towards the front, and turn your kneecap and toes towards the sky. So let's do that a few more times. Remember, you can hold onto your chair here for a little bit more support. And we're really trying to let the entire pelvis rotate around this leg that is bent. So kind of gently getting some movement back into our hip socket. All right, and then facing the hip bones to the front. Now let's try to move that just into the leg. So turning the kneecap and the toes to the front just as much as they feel comfortable with, and then turning them back up to the sky. Let's do that again. So you're really thinking of the movement happening all the way at the top of your thigh bone, deep into that hip socket. Now each hip might feel very different, that's okay. And see if you can keep breathing into those low ribs. Let's do one more. And now let's go into our side bend. So we're gonna plant the foot down onto the floor so that we're really secure. Arms reach out to the side. Think about taking up lots of space. And then I'm bending over to the right, so away from your straight leg. Your hand can come onto the chair, pressing that straight leg into the floor to reach even more length into that side of the body, and then press back up and reach your arms out to the side. So growing a little bit taller, up and over, and pressing back up off the chair. Let's do a few more. So we're reaching in opposition through that straight leg and the arm that's reaching overhead. Oh, I can already feel myself breathing a little bit more freely. Feels really nice. And now let's add in our rotation. So I'll be turning away from you towards the back of the chair. Allow your pelvis and your leg to rotate. And find a spot on the chair that feels comfortable to hold on to. And then let's add our cat-cow. So we're gonna lift the chest. Think of gently pulling the chair towards you. I can feel a big stretch on my abdominals there. And then think of almost pushing your chair down to the floor and drawing the front of your body into the back of the body. Let's do that again, lifting the eyes, opening the chest. And this movement's usually a little smaller when we add the rotation in, so don't feel that it needs to be really big. We just want to gently open up all these areas that haven't been moving very much. All right, let's come back to the side. Now a little adjustment again, check that your hip is off the side of the chair, and then we're gonna bend that leg. So be really careful that you don't fall off. Can tell I'm working hard to not fall. And now we're gonna let our hip drop down a little bit, trying to go a little below the chair, and then we lift that hip up. So it is okay to use your feet. You are pressing the floor away a little bit with your feet, but you are also using a little bit of strength through your oblique abdominals here between the hip bone and your rib. So getting a nice stretch through the low back as we drop the hip down. Feels nice. Let's do one more. All right, and then settling back into the center. Okay, so this is another great time to take a little break, maybe grab a drink, and then when we come back, we'll move into a little bit of leg work. Great work today. I hope you enjoyed this gentle movement and breath-focused workout. I'm Talese Hunt, and I hope I'll see you again soon.